Welcome, everybody, to the last season of year 8 of WCEG. Happy birthday. We're very pleased to have two wonderful activists with us today on Take a Stand. We have Moses, Hernandez, McGavin, and Nina Stevens, who are coordinators for the Poor People's Campaign. As many of you know, it was Moral Monday at one point in time. And now this campaign has a specific movement. So we're going to talk all about it. And I thank WCEG for giving us this platform. So I am going to share a PowerPoint. We're going to get right to it right now. And there we have it. Now I want to, oh, there it is. This is what's happening. We are going to have a massive Poor People's Campaign for low-wage workers, and it will be on June 18th, 2022. This is part of Moral Monday in Washington, D.C., and if you are listening and have never been to a large rally, now is the time. And so I'd like to introduce now Nina Stevens, who is a coordinator with the Poor People's Campaign. And she's going to tell you what you need to do in order to become a major participant.
Thank you, Reverend Dougherty, and thank you all for watching this program and supporting WCEG. I wanted to start off by just saying a little bit about the campaign and from my perspective how I came to it. So just briefly, back in 2020, I had been following and watching Reverend William Barber, who's one of the co-chairs of the campaign, for a couple of years, and admiring what he was doing around civil rights and then the Poor People's Campaign. We were back in 2020, I'm sure you all remember, as COVID, we were actually May of 2020, we were getting into the precautions of not being able to go out as much. And I was blessed to be able to work from home. But with that, also found myself with more time than I usually would have because of not being able to go out and wanting to be more intentional really around some of those things that Reverend Barber was talking about. And as you know, we were in the final year of a government administration and also a time that for me acted like a bright highlighter on the issues that I knew were being further escalated. Reverend Barber and Reverend Theo Harris, who is the other co-chair of a Poor People's Campaign, and the entire title for the campaign is the Poor People's Campaign, a National Call for Moral Revival. They were talking about a moral agenda, you all. Moral meaning doing right at a time when were so many, and are so many rather, wrongs to right. So the Poor People's Campaign categorizes these wrongs as 5 interlocking injustices. But before I list those, I just wanted to give a brief nod to the origins of the campaign. And so I'll say, as some of you may know, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. began the first Poor People's Campaign in 1967. That campaign later ended the next year in 1968 with a demonstration on Mother's Day of that year, 1968, in Washington, D.C., which was led by the Reverend Ralph David Abernathy and Coretta Scott King, among others. And also, it happened about a month after Dr. King's assassination. Dr. King described the campaign as moving the nation from, and I'm going to quote him because you never want to mess with Dr. King's words, moving the nation from the era of civil rights to an era of human rights. So an era where we are called to raise certain basic questions about the whole society. And by the whole society, I believe, and I know he was talking about people that often get left behind, or there's a blind eye turned towards them. People that are in the periphery of those who are blinded by a focus on the exceptional in a land of exceptionalism. So he was talking about the revolution necessary to address the devastating economic and political inequities faced by the poor. This was right after the Civil Rights Bill of 1964 and the Voting Rights Bill of 1965. But the idea was that full citizenship, that is full civil rights, could not be obtained until all people had economic security. And he defined the obstacles to obtaining that security as the triple evils: the evil of racism, the evil of poverty, and the evil of war, or the war economy. And he's putting in his speeches at that time, he's putting our country on notice that there was more work to be done, and that it had to be done through a coalition of impacted people of all races and ethnicities, as well as people of all backgrounds who support impacted people. So back to the present, in 2018, when the campaign was launched again by Reverend Barber and Reverend Thea Harris, they did it to organize our communities of poor and low wealth people, moral advocates, and people of faith and non-faith, and all those who can join this moral movement, so that we can and will usher in a revolution of values and a moral agenda. In addition to those three injustices that I've already mentioned, they did add a couple of them, and they talk about the injustices as interlocking. So the interlocking part is where injustices are tangents to each other, I'll put it that way. And they are definitely operating together through our institutions, our systems, right? Government, economic, etc. So we've already mentioned systemic racism, systemic poverty, the war economy, and militarism, but there's also added to those ecological devastation, which means, what's going on in our environments and how it's impacting our health, and the distorted moral narrative of religious nationalism, which ignores the fact that there are systemic issues that must be approached in a moral way. So that's what we're marching about on June 18th in Washington, D.C. I know it's a lot, but it's something that we always need to be keeping at the forefront. Remember, I talked about the people in the periphery. These are the issues in the periphery for some, and that's what the march is about. We want to march on June 18th for democracy and equal protection under the law, for domestic tranquility, that's living wages, affordable housing, policies that correctly measure poverty, peace and the common defense, so ending the culture of war, including the way that we spend money on it, and changing how it's promoted in our police forces, in our communities. And our best shot for a full life and health the health that goes with that, expanding Medicaid, strengthening Medicare, moving towards health care as a right with universal care, providing equal treatment for mental health and substance abuse, and then for a sustainable planet, sustainable future, and sustainable equitable economy, which we believe that can be obtained through fair taxes and programs that will create a safety net, one that we were sorely missing in the recent pandemic that really made things a lot worse on poor and low-wage people.
Well,
So
thank
that's
you,
what we're
Nina.
marching for.
I think that was a brilliant summary of what this is all about. And I thank you so much. I was remembering how I was part of Moral Mondays when we were doing Occupy Wall Street. We occupied the banks, and the connections were made between how poverty is constructed by the use of the elite, so to speak, who make the poor their workforce. And in America, we believe in equality. And this low wage worker assembly is as much important to all of us who are of middle and higher class as it is to those who are going to be coming to Washington, D.C. to participate in the march itself. So it is all of ours. It is our America, and all of us have to find a place and a role to support this. So Nina is now going to talk about how you can make a difference and participate in this rally.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Reverend Diane. Yeah, you can definitely make a difference by joining us on June 18th in DC. And for some who might be wondering, like, how would I get there? What's all of that about? We're going to talk a little bit about that. But the first step is always going to be to RSVP. So we've got a QR code up here that if you can scan, great. Also, be sure to always visit the Poor People's Campaign website, poorpeoplescampaign.org. For more information. We also have a get involved form that is available. I think we might be including that in some follow-up information on this call, but that QR code would also lead you to it. That is for people who want to get involved at the June 18th march, but also beyond, because that's what we're working beyond June 18th. It's not all about June 18th, but right now we're focused on June 18th because we want a large crowd out in the streets in DC, making sure that we keep these issues on the front burner, not the back burner. And so one of the ways that you can travel to DC is through buses. Poor People's Campaign has partnered with a wonderful app called rally.co, where it basically puts you, and this is pun intended, in the driver's seat with regard to how you set up your travel if you want to travel there by bus. That information is also on the website. Moses is going to speak a little bit about it. And I also wanted to let you all know that we have some funding. This week. We'll more than likely have some funding later, but really we have funding this week, and we want to concentrate on using the funding that we have this week for free bus tickets. So definitely need to check us out on our social media. We have the same links that we're talking about today. And again, like I said, some information will be available through Reverend Diane's show as well. These are the places where the buses are leaving from now. So all over Georgia, but just know that if there's a certain number of people in an area that might not be included on this list, there is a possibility or ability, rather, I should say, to add that location on to the route to DC as well.
Thank you. We want to fill up these buses. That's our motto.
Yes.
Fill up
Yes.
these buses and more. I know when I went to the climate change, we had an entire bus going from Georgia State in Athens, an entire bus. It was phenomenal. And they had, I think, 15 buses. So this is not exclusive of other cities. And thank you, Nina, for making that clear. Now I'm going to introduce you to Moses, who is an energy behind all of this, and she's going to fill you in on the rest of the details.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Reverend Diane, and thank you so much, WCEG and Nina. So happy to be here with you. As Reverend Diane said, my name is Moses, and I am on the coordinating committee of the Georgia Poor People's Campaign. And I'm so excited to just talk about some additional details. And I think one of the first things we really want to highlight that Nina kind of already just mentioned was that we want to make it very clear that we do not want a lack of financial access to be a barrier for anyone, or sorry, financial access to be a barrier for anyone who wants to come to June 18th. We want to make sure that everyone can come. And so we are proud to say, as Nina said, that we do have funding for anyone who wants to get on the bus and get up to Washington, D.C. on June 18th. Just a little bit of details. If you are riding a bus up to DC, it will leave at night on June 17th. You'll spend the day on June 18th in DC, and you will be back in Georgia by June 19th. Most buses will be back very early in the morning on June 19th, and then kind of the further south you get, the little bit more in the afternoon it will be, but for the most part, you'll be back pretty early on June 19th. In terms of financial assistance, the National Poor People's Campaign has provided us with a coupon code that we can use to access free seats for the bus trip up to Washington, D.C. And this particular coupon code will be available for us to use until May 23rd. After May 23rd, the money that is associated with those coupon codes will be returned to a national bus fund pool. And then after that, what we will be moving into is we actually have resources in the state of Georgia as the Georgia Poor People's Campaign to also help folks get on the bus. And so if for whatever reason, we really encourage y'all to really try and use these coupon codes before May 23rd. But if that just isn't a possibility, if you still have things to arrange, we will be able to offer assistance after May 23rd. And also it is worth noting that I think the last day to book your seat on the bus is going to be June 10th. So in order to get financial assistance, you need to, as I said, you need to access the coupon code. So what we're asking people to do is to either fill out the special interest form. You can go ahead, take your phone and scan that QR code and indicate on that form that you need financial assistance, and we will get back to you. We are on that form literally 24/7. We will get back to you probably within 24 hours, but honestly, probably sooner than that. And we will walk you through the process. Or you can reach out to us directly and say that you are in need of financial assistance. But I do really want to reiterate, you either must fill out this form or you must reach out to us. If you are just RSVPing for June 18th on the national website, it is not indicated to us that you may need financial assistance, and so we won't be able to follow up with you. So we just really encourage you to either reach out to us via email directly or fill out this form. But as I said, we encourage you to try and sign up before May 23rd, because not only does that kind of help us with the national ticket fund and stuff like that, it also gives us a longer time to get to know you before June 18th, have some conversations, talk about why you want to go to June 18th and all this great stuff. But after May 23rd, we will have funding available as well. If you are listening to this and you are a part of an organization, you are a part of a group, you are a part of a campaign, you are a part of a congregation, and you are like, I want to get folks from my organization, my group on that bus to DC, and you would like to partner with us more intentionally, not only to get members of your organization on the bus, but also just in general to get more connected with us here in Georgia and across the country, we are encouraging you to sign up to become a mobilizing partner. A mobilizing partner for June 18th, really, you can kind of bring it down to three things. The first thing is that you organize a delegation of your members to Washington, D.C. on June 18th, and you can figure out and see what's possible for how many members of your organization it makes sense to really mobilize and get on your bus. It might be 5 members, it might be 500 members. We would be so happy with both, and this is a great opportunity to really work with us to get those folks on the bus. The second thing that being a mobilizing partner means is that you will recruit other allies and organizations to join as mobilizing partners. And really, this might come in any kind of form that you think. It might be just putting us in touch with other folks you think may be interested, and maybe having meetings with those folks, or it may be doing, a form of kind of the last thing of what it means to be a mobilizing partner, which is using social media, email, and other communications and media platforms to really promote this mobilization effort and really help us get the word out. Mobilizing partners are a great way to get more connected, not only with us, but also with the national campaign. You'll have opportunities to jump on calls with other mobilizing partner organizations from across the country and also here in the state of Georgia. If you are interested in becoming a mobilizing partner, what you can do is you can go directly to poorpeoplescampaign.org/June 18th and click on the button that says register your organization as a mobilizing partner, or you can also reach out directly to us if you have more questions. But either way, we really encourage you to let us know if you want to sign up to be a mobilizing partner so we can have a conversation about what that might look like. And so the next thing that you can do is you can sign up to be a mobilizing captain. This is if you are an individual and you are just so excited about June 18th that you want to get everyone you know on that bus. And so this is also a really great way to dip your toes into the Poor People's Campaign and spend a part of the next couple months really mobilizing with us here in Georgia and also across the country, and kind of getting to know us as we kind of move on after June 18th as well. But a mobilizing captain, what this basically means is you are going to identify organizations, places of worship, your neighbors, neighborhood, apartment building, family, school, club, union, sororities, fraternities, any group of people, and inviting these people to be a part of your delegation to join you on June 8th, and by letting them know that you are going and what the Poor People's Campaign is all about. I really always encourage people who are excited and interested in the Poor People's Campaign to sign up to be a mobilizing captain, because it is the most amazing opportunity to practice having organizing conversations and to learn skills like, what does it mean to flyer? What does it mean to do a one-on-one? What does it mean to speak at a statewide meeting, right? All of these things. And I also want to emphasize that there is no pressure, right? We will not get mad at you if you don't sign up a certain amount of people or anything like that. This is really an opportunity for you to become more connected, not only with us, but with your community, and really, get folks on the bus, or at least have conversations about what the Poor People's Campaign is. We need more of us to be talking to folks out there about what we do and what we're about. You'll get to meet mobilizing captains here in the state of Georgia and also across the country, because mobilizing captains are also invited to really special national calls with the co-chairs and other members of the field team. And so the Georgia campaign will be hosting a mobilizing captain virtual meet and greet and meeting on May 17th from 7 to 8:30. So that's tomorrow at 7 p.m. You don't have to be a mobilizing captain yet, but if you're interested and you want to learn more, this is a great space to do that. If you go through that, decide that, this isn't for you right now, that's totally okay, but we'd encourage you to come. And also, if you do register as a mobilizing captain, there will be one of those first national PPC mobilizing captain calls this coming Thursday, I believe. And you'll be able not just to meet mobilizing captains here in the state of Georgia, but you'll be able to get connected to the hundreds of mobilizing captains across the country, every region, every state. And I think it will be really cool just to see the breadth of this movement. And so if you're interested in becoming a mobilizing captain, you can indicate that on your RSVP when you RSVP for June 18th. We're always coming back to RSVPing for June 18th. But you can also reach out to us directly and we will let you know next steps for that.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the pushes I want to make is that when I was young, a young adult, I mobilized groups from the areas that I lived in to go to Washington, D.C. And if you have never had that experience, it is incredible.
Right.
Not just the rally itself, but the bus ride. We just had so much fun, because if you have all of your friends on this bus, it's awesome.
Yes.
So these are the resources where you can go and grab information about all of the exciting events.
Mm. Yeah, and so listed on here is ways to connect with us on social media. We also have that QR code that will take you to that form once again. And we also have other ways that you can register to receive our emails. That's our register for the Georgia campaign link that will take you to our Action Network page and will get you on that email list. So you will get our emails. Obviously, our emails on there as well. And then also what we've attached on there is something that we call a June 18th Georgia PPC resource doc. Basically, we kind of compiled all the questions, all the, things that people were asking about June 18th and decided to put them in one huge Google Doc. And so that might be a great resource that if you have a question and you just need to try and get an answer as soon as possible, go ahead, go to that doc. It's probably answered there. And if it's not answered there, shoot me an email and I will add it there because it is a living and a breathing document. And we also want to take this time to say that if you want to go to June 18th, but you can't for whatever reason, whether that be, you don't yet want to be in crowds, anything like that, there are opportunities to join virtually. There are opportunities to engage with us digitally. And there will be some local opportunities that we'll announce more down the line. But I do want to pass it maybe, Nina, I don't want to put you in the spot, but if you want to talk a little bit about some digital organizing and what it looks like to really become a part of this, even if you're not physically in Washington, D.C. that day.
Sure. And so, Moses, you touched on so much of it. One thing I want to still uplift is the Poor People's Campaign website. So that poorpeoplescampaign.org. It's a wealth of information, you all. Please go check it out. One of the things I love about the Poor People's Campaign is, it's got a heart, but it also has a brain behind it. And there's learning the materials that you can research or read reports about the impacts of a lot of these issues on poor and low wage people, but on us as a community of brothers and sisters as well, right? But they also have specifically for June 18th, an awesome toolkit that they share that you can download, that you can share actually on your social media, or if you prefer sending emails, you can download some of the images there and put some of the quotations and information about June 18th to share with other folks. And so that's one way you can help if you're unable to join us on June 18th, uplifting the message, right? Just sharing it with everyone because you never know who might be interested in doing what you're doing, or even going to DC themselves. And what else? We also, on our social media, that's what's up there. That QR code that you see there, if you can pause this whenever you see this and scan it, will take you to those different links that you see listed there as well. But please like our page, share our page, comment as well. That's always awesome. And also, we would encourage you, if you are going to DC, or even if you're just supportive of the campaign, to upload or share like a video about your feelings about the campaign and why you're doing what you're doing around it. That's always good. We definitely want to always be uplifting the messages, so you could be a part of that.
I'd like to talk about, I'd like to say a little bit about why I am participating in it. And that is because at my age, I have lived a life of privilege. And I assumed that in the little city I grew up in, everybody was rising like yeast as a cell in the community. I found out that is not true, because there are certain systems that make people poor for to make profit for others. And those are the systems that we need to defeat, and we need to manage. This is not socialism. This is a movement to create a pool of poor people that will act as slaves as a new form of slavery. And we cannot tolerate that in the United States of America. We have to, from whatever position you stand, if you yourself are poor and low age, you need to reach up and out to us. If we are part of the 1% or those who have been wealthy, we need to reach down and climb down a ladder to speak for those who have no voice. And that is what I'm doing. And I just appreciate both of you for bringing your voice to WCEG and allowing me the opportunity to really gift the community of listeners and empower them to do what they have the power to do to change and bring America back to the beauty of its vision and mission. So what's next for GAPPC?
So, and I want to just briefly also just thank you for uplifting your story, the angle that you were looking at all of these issues in, Reverend Diane, because I know that I've spoken to some people, even friends of mine, and they hear the name of the Poor People's Campaign, and they might make a little look like, well, I'm not poor. What does this have to do with me? And what you said is exactly what it has to do with them, because we're all in the same boat, so to speak. Some of us are in, maybe a fancier section of the boat, but, nonetheless, if we all keep going the way we're going, and I hate to use this, I know I'm using this imagery that is interesting, but, if we keep going in the same direction, just like with the Titanic, we hit that iceberg, we're all going down. It doesn't matter whether we have, we're in the first class section or we're down below. We can all be in danger of capsizing and going under. So thank you for sharing that. So to the point of this next slide about what we're doing next, or what we're continuing to do, we want to continue base building across Georgia. We know that there's at least 4.6 million poor and low wage people in Georgia, and that they have the power to lift their voices in a number of ways. The Poor People's Campaign is about uplifting their leadership and their voices. And so we've got to get out and outside of our Metro Atlanta kind of base and into other areas of Georgia. So if you're interested and you're in another area of Georgia and you want to come and join us in this campaign and doing this work, we definitely want to hear from you, and you can reach out to us through our email address or our social media. Email address is georgia@poorpeoplescampaign.org. Moses, did you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so, a big thing that we're doing is really continuing to connect with a lot of faith-based and other advocacy groups to bring in what we call more hurricane voices and really challenging false moral narratives that permeate this country, and also really challenge, the ways in which religion and false moral narratives really intersect, and the ways in which religion has been used to hurt people, the ways in which religion has been used to, uphold hurtful policies and stuff like that, and really challenge that, and really kind of engage in this battle for the Bible, really engage in this battle for the theology, and really think about theology in the Bible as a source of liberation, and really as a source of, thinking about what it means to be a person of faith, and what it means to really use faith as a way to organize for a better society, and for the betterment of all people. And so especially here, in the South, it's really important that we have these conversations and are always really engaging in this conversation about the battle for the Bible, and really thinking about what are our nation's priorities right now in this false moral narrative, and how can we shift our priorities away from things that really don't make a lot of sense to be spending a lot of time and attention on, and really focusing more on how do we really eradicate poverty? How do we end poverty? And how do we really tackle these 5 interlocking injustices and shift kind of our nation's moral compass to understand what actually is important and actually what we should be caring about and thinking about? And I think I'll pass it over to you, Nina, kind of for this last section.
Well, I would like to
Right.
just add one little
Go
thing
ahead.
about what you said earlier about hurricane voices. I think that we also have to admit that there are voices who don't want change. They don't want to listen for the very reason that they feel they're going to lose something very precious to them. And we have to, at our hearts, out of compassion and empathy, understand the depth of their fear. But we also have to let them understand that letting more people in, developing systems of human rights, civil rights, will allow for a more beautiful vision of America. That they should have nothing to fear because it's a lot of work to maintain what we've got. And if we open the field and maintain democracy, it will be a much more beautiful America that we have today without the divisions that leave some in the dust.
Yes, amen. A more beautiful picture, most definitely. A masterpiece, actually.
It will be. It will
Yeah.
be.
And so the last thing that I'll just say about what's next for Georgia Poor People's Campaign is we're building. We want to build outside of just building our base. We want to build a sustainable get out the vote effort, right? Because a lot of these things that we've been talking about are policy driven. And if we are putting people in those spaces, in those places where they can impact the policy and change things, that is all the better for making the change that you're talking about, that you've described, Reverend Diane. So we're actively seeking people who are interested in building with us. We're concentrated right now to an extent on June 18th, but we're going to be hitting hard and doing some events and things around get out the vote, well before November of this year, and things that we will look to sustain beyond November of this year.
I love it. You've been listening to Nina Stevens, volunteer par excellence for the Poor People's Campaign, and Moses Hernandez McGavin. If you are looking for more information, feel free to call Moses at this number or Jamil Hill, or go to the poorpeoplescampaign.org website. We are certainly hoping that with this little infomercial, you are hyped up to do something for our democracy, to do something for our people, and to create a world, an America that works for everyone. So my name is Reverend Diane Dougherty, and you are listening to WCEG Talk Radio. My show is called Take a Stand. I interview wonderful activists. And for the last months, oh my gosh, what a wonderful group of activists we have had on our show. These two being par excellence. So I would like to ask everyone to share this, send it around, invite people to join the Poor People's Campaign, especially if you are in the cities that are in, around, or near places where the buses are going. Hopefully this will be a movement that pushes you into this important work where we as gospel people live. So thank you both. And thank you, WCEG. Happy birthday. and what a wonderful future we have looking out. As we look out into the future, it's brighter than ever because of you two.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much for having us. Thank you.